Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating conference presentation by Dr. Anna Magritte DeWet called Potholes or Speed Bumps: Rethinking Legal Literacy for Education Stakeholders. It's a deep dive into how schools navigate this incredibly complex road of competing rights, limited resources, and daily legal challenges. Just imagine being a school principal or a teacher right at the messy intersection of strict legal frameworks and the very human reality of a classroom. How do you navigate that? Well, let's find out. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with navigating the legal road, then move into Phase 1, mapping the literature, Phase 2, the 5 themes, Phase 3, real cases, and finally, becoming caring education practitioners. Section 1, navigating the legal road, and the core problem at hand. So educators are constantly operating at the intersection of complex real-world realities. Every single day, they're having to interpret and apply legal rules. And depending on how they apply that law, the challenges they face turn into one of two things. They either become massive destabilizing potholes that completely disrupt the educational environment and cause conflict, or they become manageable speed bumps. Challenges that force everyone to slow down and think, but ultimately let the school keep moving forward safely. Which leads right into Dr. DeWet's core question. What does it actually mean to be legally literate enough to avoid those massive potholes? Now you might think it just means knowing the rules, right? But she challenges that assumption, especially today. Think about it. With AI, an educator has instant access to huge amounts of legal information. If legal literacy is just about knowing the law, AI changes the whole game. Mere knowledge of the law just doesn't cut it as the true definition of legal literacy anymore. To figure out what legal literacy really should mean, the researchers set up a 3-part qualitative study. Step 1 was mapping out 186 academic articles. Step 2 was a deep dive into 11 core articles that explicitly focus on legal literacy itself. And Step 3 took all that theory and dropped it into the real world by analyzing South African court cases to see how legal literacy actually plays out in practice. Moving to Section 2, Phase 1, mapping the literature and its conceptual movement. Looking at the research, there's been a massive shift in how academics understand legal literacies over time. Back in the late 1990s, the focus was entirely defensive. It was all about acquiring legal knowledge just to avoid liability, basically staying out of court. But by the late 2000s, it shifted toward preparedness and professional judgment, figuring out how to actually use that knowledge. And today, the modern literature expands the concept way out to include human rights, social justice, and critical perspectives. So we've moved from simply complying with the law defensively to acting as rights-bearing professionals, actively seeking justice. That brings us to Section 3, Phase 2, the 5 themes and our modern understanding. In Phase 2, Dr. DeWet analyzed those 11 core articles and uncovered 5 overlapping themes that show a really clear progression. First, you have foundational legal knowledge. Second, putting that knowledge into action. The third theme focuses on using the law for protection and professional agency. Fourth, it zooms out to democratic citizenship, actually recognizing and claiming your rights. And finally, the 5th theme treats legal literacy as a tool for empowerment and transformation. It's a complete evolution, going from simply knowing the rules of the road to actually questioning who built the road in the first place. This perfectly highlights a huge gap in current training. On one hand, you have the basic conceptualization, what does the law say, which just enables us to understand rules. But on the totally opposite end of the spectrum, you have the critical transformative view, asking, how can I advance justice, which enables socially just practice. The crazy part is, most training still only focuses on the basics. Do you know the rules? But the literature is absolutely begging us to move toward that transformative level of legal literacy. So the really big takeaway here is this vital distinction. Are we just teaching educators competent navigation of the existing road? Or are we giving them the critical capacity to question the road itself? The literature gives us the building blocks, for sure, but it leaves us asking, what kind of relationship with the law do we genuinely want to cultivate in our educators? Section 4, Phase 3, Real Cases, where the law meets reality. This is where Dr. DeWet applied these theories to the harsh realities of South African case law. Think about real court cases dealing with things like the prohibition of corporal punishment or intense disputes over religious dress codes and language policies. These cases prove that educational legal problems are never just about mechanically applying an isolated rule. They are deeply, deeply human problems. They involve dignity, identity, and historical inequality. As the presentation points out, the real potholes aren't gaps in knowledge. They are gaps in critical consciousness and the capacity to translate constitutional values into everyday practice. And this brings up a deeply provocative question. What happens when practitioners know the law perfectly, but apply it without care? I mean, a school can know its statutory powers inside and out and enforce its code of conduct flawlessly from a technical standpoint, yet they can still do it in a way that causes immense harm to vulnerable students, completely ignoring equality and human dignity. It turns out, legal knowledge does not automatically come with a moral compass. Finally, Section 5, Caring Practitioners and Bridging the Gap. So how do we bridge this gap between knowing the law and actually embodying justice? To solve this, the presentation introduces a really powerful concept, the Ubuntu Care Pedagogy. This is a model that combines the African philosophy of Ubuntu, which is all about relational interconnectedness, with an ethics of care and critical pedagogy. It demands that educators stop seeing themselves as isolated actors just enforcing rules and start seeing themselves as interconnected members of a community, where their decisions profoundly affect the dignity of everyone around them. This completely expands our whole conceptualization of legal literacy. It's no longer just about what you learn, it is entirely about how you learn it. The pedagogy itself forms the practitioner. Think about it. If educators are taught education law as this authoritarian, punitive tool that's only concerned with liability, well, they're going to apply it exactly that way. But if they learn it through dialogue, care, and critical inquiry, they actually become caring practitioners. So, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, teacher education has to shift. We need to move away from memorizing dry, boring rules and shift toward authentic cases and real narratives. We need rights-balancing exercises, structured dialogue, and deep deliberation. Educators must be taught to actively interrogate power and privilege and constantly reflect on the human consequences of their legal decisions. We have to learn how to navigate this road with humanity. Bringing this brilliant extended metaphor home, the researcher states that the aim is not simply to drive cautiously around legal potholes, but to understand why the road is constructed as it is and exactly who it serves. True critical transformative legal literacy is about making absolutely sure everyone can travel the educational road with dignity, recognizing who might be disadvantaged by its very design. I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. Look at your own institutions and your own training. Will your approach to legal learning just create cautious rule followers who only know how to swerve to avoid potholes? Or will it forge critically conscious, caring practitioners who ensure everyone travels the road with dignity? It's a pretty powerful challenge to rethink the future of educational leadership. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.